All right, we're recording. Yay. I did not forget this time, which is great.
We remembered.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome. Thank you so much. If you are just now joining us, please drop where you're tuning in from in the chat. Let's make some friends, make some little networking connections. That's always fun. Again, thank you so much for being here. My name is Lindsay Lucas. I'm a venue consultant, and I'm so excited for the opportunity to have Randy with Merri join us on the webinar today. I'm going to read a little bit about Randy and introduce her, and then we're going to dive right on into all the good stuff. Okay. Randy is the founder and CEO of Merri, a collaborative software bridging the gap between event professionals through immersive 3D technology, hands-on design tools, and integrated workflows. Having built her career in e-commerce as a strategic leader for national brands like Macy's, Walmart, and Jet.com, Randy founded Merri as the missing solution she needed when planning her own wedding in 2018. Named an industry disruptor by Authority magazine, Randy's commitment to innovation has led Merri to become one of the fastest growing platforms in the event industry. Randy was also recently listed in Event Tech's 100 most influential people in the event industry. Pretty impressive. Randy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I am going to, first of all, disable my notifications. Sorry about that. I'm going to hop off of video so that hopefully internet is a little bit stronger, and then feel free to take it from here.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys for joining whoever's live, and then I know we're going to repost this later. Like Lindsay mentioned, my name is Randy. Merri is my firstborn child. And just to kind of give you more of an informal bio, I started Merri about 4 years ago at this point, when I was, quite frankly, really surprised that a tool like this didn't exist to help people, plan their events in a more visual and immersive way. An event is unlike any other transaction that you make in the world, in that it's, high touch, high value, high stress. And there are so many different components between the venue and the furniture and the lighting and the decor that really all need to come together. So we figured, what better way to do that than to build this kind of like interactive 3D platform. So here we are. We work with venues across the globe, actually, but predominantly in the US. And our goal is to pretty much help you guys kind of sell your space and help your clients understand how they can best utilize your space. So I'm going to do a full kind of product demo over the next, call it 30 minutes. We'll have plenty of time for questions. As you have questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A or the chat. Lindsay will kind of flag me down if anything is burning. And then at the end, we will, like I said, have plenty of time to talk through anything else that's on your mind. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Lindsay, you can see it, yeah?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay. So before we get into how to use the product, let's first talk about how a venue can get set up on Merri, because I find that is often the first question that is asked of me. And so the answer is, if you want to move forward with getting your venue set up on Merri, you will work with someone on my team named Jen. She's actually on this call. She's our account executive. And you guys will decide kind of what is right for your business. And you have two options, okay? The first is called a premium rendering. This is where we have a human being, a 3D artist, create a kind of photorealistic replica of your space. And then we have what's called a classic rendering. This is free, which is amazing. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. And it's still to scale, and it's still very reminiscent of your space, but we've built some amazing technology that allows us to do this in a cost-effective way. So we're able to do that for you. So whether you choose kind of the premium or the classic, we get you onboarded onto our platform. You and your team then have full access to your model. You can create unlimited events. We give you unlimited logins, and you can create as many floor plans as designs as needed. So now let's talk a little bit about the functionality. So when you log in as the venue, part of your onboarding process is actually not only what does your space look like, but also what inventory do you provide as part of either your rental fee or as an upgrade. And we call those like venue provided items. And so what you can see here in this venue that I'm showing you called the Maxwell, they provide your standard kind of folding tables, but then also some pipe and drape and this, round farm table and some chairs, etc. So we create not only 3D models of your space, we also create 3D models of your like house inventory, and you have access to our catalog of 62,000 other furniture, rental, and decor pieces. All of these are 3D models. Now, oftentimes what venues do is they don't want to get too involved in that process, right? Sometimes you do, maybe you kind of also double as an event planner, but if you are just like, I want to set up a basic layout using my inventory, that is where we're going to start. So we're going to click view your space. And to start, we say, okay, do you want to go into our 2D floor planning mode or 3D design mode? We offer the best of both worlds. What did exist on the market when we launched Merri was, a lot of 2D floor plan diagramming solutions. We really believe in the power of 3D, so I'm going to show you that, but I'm also going to show you what the 2D floor planning mode looks like from within there. Both have their purposes. If you're just trying to create like a basic diagram to see how we can best fit 100 people with 60-inch round tables, go into the 2D floor plan mode. If you want to show your client exactly what the space is going to look like for their event with different kind of options, highly recommend the 3D mode. The best part is that the data flows between the two. So all that you're choosing is the starting point. If I now want to go into 2D, whatever I do in 3D, I see in 2D and vice versa. Okay, so we loaded into our 3D design. View, as well as a 2D floor plan. So you now see how easy it is on Merri to go from this kind of like stencil 2-dimensional view into a 3D view. It's all intertwined, it's all connected. All right, so whichever view you want to work in, you can do the same thing. Now, before I kind of show you how we can fill up the space to create layouts, let's do like a 2-second demo of how to move around the space. For those of you who play video games or have kids who play video games, Merri is built on the same technology as The Sims. So if you think about it, it kind of feels like a video game where you have your control panel down here. You can move forward, backward, left, right, pan all around the room. You can also just click anywhere in this space or click and pan, and that's where you'll move. Expert level is moving your keyboard, which is what I like to do. So that's how you change your position. You can also move yourself up, you can move yourself down, as well as your perspective, which I already showed you, 3D, top down, etc. So that's kind of like the core navigation components of Merri. Now, in terms of how you can start filling up this space, you are going to spend probably 90% of your time in the design tab. And in the design tab, we've created features that are based on the type of item that you want to add to the space. So if you want to add a table, you're going to use the tables tool. If you want to add a tent, you're going to use the tents tool, and so on. So the type of item you want to add gets its own tool. And the reason for that, you're going to see in a second, is we built really robust tooling around this. So starting with tables, because that's kind of the skeleton of the whole event. When I click into my tables tool, you'll see we just give you a default of a 60-inch round and a 6-foot banquet table, right? Like really popular sizes. Now, if you plan on using a 60-inch round table, literally all you need to do is drag and drop. That's it. If you are using a different size table, or you're not having 8 guests around it, you're having 6 or 10, and or you want to change the design of the table, you're going to click this edit pencil icon. Okay. So from this edit pencil icon, you can do a lot of things. Now, this is where you can get as involved in the design process as you want or not. If you just want to show your client what, 120 person event will look like with 60-inch round tables, you can ignore all of these carousels. But if you want to show them what an upgraded chair will look like based on these venue provided chairs, you can swap those out. If a chair kind of has logic attached to it where you should really add a cushion to it, we also let you do that. So you can swap out the chairs, you can even swap out the linens, you can add china, you can add flatware, etc. So again, if you want to be super involved and get that detailed, go for it. If not, your best friend is going to be kind of adjusting the size of the table and the number of people at the table. So once you've got this table to where you want it, again, everything on Merri is drag and drop. Now, once I add one to the space, I can either select it, and you see it selected because it's blue. And this action menu pops up on the bottom. This is how I can change something about an item that I just added to the space. I can delete it, I can lock it, I can duplicate it, I can rotate it, etc. So I could use this like copy button and add another one here. Or if you're like me and you like shortcuts in life, you can select it and hit Control-C and Control-V as many times as you want. Now, also, if you're like me, you like things nice and organized, and it's killing you that these are not evenly spaced in a line. So what I'm now going to do is just drag a box around all of these. So I just took my mouse and I dragged a box. And we have an alignment tool. And I can say, I want to align all of these to the top, and I want to evenly distribute them. So now I know that all of these tables are straight and they have the same amount of space between them. That now if I copy the entire row, it's really clean and I'm not dragging and dropping another, 6 tables. So multi-select functionality or group select functionality is kind of your best friend when you're trying to quickly make a layout. Just drag me. Okay, now let's say you want to add a head table. Okay, so you want to add a head table right here. Now I'm going to edit this table. And again, you could just use our basic tables and then you can invite your client or their planner to come in here and customize it. But let's say your client already told you that they're renting a farm table. Okay, so you're going to click into the table and you see all of the tables in our catalog. You can filter by material, by color, by shape, etc. But I'm kind of good with this 8-foot standard farm table. I will add this one to my event, select that one, use our same venue inventory with our cushions, and then drag out my table here. Now it's facing the wrong direction. So remember, if I select something, I have all my tools down here and I can rotate it. Just went too far. And then once I rotate it once, I can copy and paste it and it'll hold my rotation. So let's pause there for a second and go back into 3D. So you can see that in a few seconds, even with me talking through it, we have a layout made with 124 guests. You can see in real time, we are counting the number of chairs placed in the floor plan, including our head table over here, as well as all of the other guest tables. We have our 3D view, we have our top-down view. And then if I go into my 2D view, I can see things like table numbers. I can add in notes. We can even add in labels that give me the size of each table and the number of guests at each table. So you can really see how Merri kind of bridges that gap between what is my event going to look like, which is really important when you're selling your space, and is it going to work? What are the logistics behind my event? Now, let's say you're getting closer to the event and your client is finalizing their guest list, which they can also do on Merri, and they're seating their guests. And they realize that at table 6, they actually only need 6 seats and not 9. Well, from this design tab, if I were to update the guest count here, I'll just do it really quickly so you can see, that's going to update all of my tables, right? So you can see now all of them are 6. That's not what we wanted to do. So let's bring these back to 9, but a really good shortcut, by the way, if you did need to do that. If I only want to update table 6, I'm going to select it. And in my resize tool, bring just this one to 6. And so now you can see, let me zoom in. This one has 6, the rest of them has 9. And you can see that our overall guest count changed from 124 to 121. So we are real-time calculating all of this. Lindsay, before I move on, are there any kind of like burning questions in the chat box that I should touch on?
I have one real quick.
Yeah.
So the first one was, what does the process look like for a venue to get onboarded? Like, how long does it take? What support is provided? What is like their requirements?
Yeah. So if you opt for that classic rendering process, so what we're looking at right now, you are up and running within 10 days. what we need from you is a floor plan with a scale or at least one measurement. Kind of the whole point of what we do is that we guarantee that everything's to scale. So we need to make sure that we're creating a 3D model off of a 2-scale floor plan. And then some reference photos, right? If we don't have photos, we might not know what these doors look like, right? Or where they are on the wall, or what your walls consist of. So just one picture of each wall that you can just send to us, from your iPhone. You don't need a professional photographer. And then you're up and running in 10 days. For that upgraded premium version, we will need some more images because again, we're creating like a very custom art for you. We have a whole guide that we can send to you. And typically that's about a 4-week turnaround from when we get all of that information. In terms of support. So once you sign a contract, it's a 1-year commitment. You get a dedicated onboarding person. Her name is Allie, and she's going to set up a call with you and say, here's what we need. This is what we need floor plan. Here's an example. Here are the photos we need. And then once you launch, you also have a dedicated customer success representative. Her name is Stephanie. She was actually a Merri customer at a venue that she was the GM of and loved what we were doing so much that she came to work for us, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I promise we won't steal your employees. That was a one-time thing. Any other questions, Lindsay?
Not right now.
Should I keep going? Or are there other questions?
Yes, keep going.
I might have lost you. I'm going to keep going then. All right. Now let's talk about our chairs tool. The chairs tool is really, really, really straightforward. It's how you set up a ceremony or like a theater style layout for a meeting. You can choose a template. So do you want straight aisles and rows, a horseshoe, chevron, etc. And then in the next panel, you can get a little bit more detailed with it. So you can change the type of chair. You can change how many rows you have. You can change the number of chairs per column per row. You can change the aisle width. You can change the spacing per chair, forward and backward and side to side. So again, our default should get you 99% of the way there. If you have really specific kind of spatial constraints, you can adjust those. And then you're just going to drag and drop your chairs out. Now, if you need to change something about the chairs, it's the same exact way that tables work, where you select them and all of these actions pop up here. So let's say you actually want to rotate this 180 degrees. You just rotate the chairs and then move them back this way. That is the chairs tool. I will not spend any more time on it. Add items. The best way to think about add items is anything that isn't listed here. So anything that really doesn't need like a dedicated tool because you're not putting things like on top of and around it and it requires different algorithms. So something in add items would be like lounge furniture or dance floors and staging, things like that. So let's say we wanted to actually add a dance floor here. So a dance floor would live in entertainment, and I'm going to add a dance floor. And within dance floors, you can see we have, all these different materials and colors and whatnot. So let's say we're going to do like this dark wood parquet. I'll add that. And maybe I'll add, another one. Fine. And then the same way I was dragging and dropping my chairs, I can drag and drop my dance floor. Now we have no idea what size you need your dance floor to be. So we just default to 12 by 12. But if you select it and you go into your menu, you can use these very kind of user-friendly sliders to get it exactly to the size that you need it to be. So that's the add items tab. Now pipe and drape, not that common for venues to use this tool. This is often something that if a venue invites their client or their planner or a rental company they engage with, but I'll show you while we're here. You can add draping by choosing a material. So this venue actually provides like white premier draping. You can choose a silhouette between like full gathered, half gathered, etc. And then on the next tab, you can either add another layer if you're doing swagging, or let's just say we're good with, a pretty basic pipe and drape. I'm going to go back into top down mode. And then I drag out my pipe and drape. Now we just give you a 10-foot segment, but then if you want to kind of drape this entire wall, you'll pull out that side right there, out, and this side right here. And then if I go into 3D, I see my pipe and drape. So we've now blocked off this other wall. It's a little too short, no problem. I can select it in the same way that my tables and my chairs, I could rotate. My pipe and drape, I can change the height. We've really thought of kind of all the ways that you might need to engage with a certain type of item, whether it's a table or a drape. There. Getting to the bottom here. For any of the venues on the call who either have a built-in tent or people bring in tents often to the space, we have a very, very, very robust tent tool. So when we onboard you, if you do kind of offer a tent, we would kind of default the tent to your space. So is it like a white frame gable end tent, is it a sailcloth tent, whatever it is. So you can see we have all these different styles, frame tents in both clear and white canopy, hip and gable end, pole tents, high peak tents, etc. So let's just go with like a gable end frame tent. So now when I add that tent, because it's a frame tent, I can now choose from all of these applicable frame tent sizes. We have a lot of them. And then once you pick a size, you can even choose between the standard 8-foot or 10-foot heights. And then what this looks like is kind of like 10-foot bays. So you can even change where the pole placements are. Next, this should look familiar. It's pretty similar actually to like a table where you select your base, right? So is it a 60-inch table or is it a frame tent? And then you can get crazy with it if you want by adding in leg drapes, by adding in walls, by adding in, paneling, like get crazy if you want or not. Again, you can just get the floor plan going and then you can invite your client, the rental company, the planner, et cetera, to do all these details after, but just to show you kind of what that would look like, then you can drag out your tent over here. The same way you can rotate tables and chairs, you can rotate your tent, you can lock your tent, you can resize your tent, etc. So all of the tools are the same, but we've made it pretty easy for you to understand, here's a tool and how I interact with this type of item versus that type of item. So let's just quickly go back into 3D. And you can now see kind of our full reception space over here. And then I'm just going to walk on over. And here is my ceremony that will be facing this way. And then my tent over here. Maybe you're doing cocktails in your tent, whatever. So those are the kind of primary tools on Merri. There's also a lighting and ceiling decor tab, where if your venue allows you to hang things from the ceiling, you will see this tab. So this is actually a really good point that I haven't touched on yet. As part of your onboarding process, we take note of what we call venue rules or house rules, okay? Those rules include, are you allowed to hang things from the ceiling? If so, people will be able to drag out chandeliers onto the ceiling, just like that. If not, people will not see this lighting. We will not let you do that, or the clients that you invite do that. Other rules include maximum capacity. So you can see here, we're counting up, here's how many tables you have in your reception. Here's how many chairs you have for your ceremony. Now, if you give us a maximum capacity, this total wouldn't just say 211. It would say total 211 out of 250 capacity. Guess what? The second I go up to 250, this turns red. And we say, you're breaking the rules. The next thing that we also include is kind of service perimeter. So if I try to move these tables too close together, you see they turn red. And when you hover over the error, we say they're too close together. So you will tell us, it's actually per room, or we can make every room the same for your venue. How much space do we need to leave back of chair to back of chair? And then the last thing that we also do is take into account kind of spatial constraints at the space level. So if there's fire exits, you can tell us, you can't put things within 3 feet of the pool, things like that. So all of that is included in your onboarding process, and things turn red when they need to turn red, including max capacity and when you put things in a place where you can't put them. So lighting is great if you're allowed to do it. If you're not allowed to do it, you just won't see it. Now, let's say you are working with a client, maybe they're a little difficult, and they want to see different options. Maybe they want to see what the ceremony would look like indoors, right? Like what if it's a rain plan? Or maybe you're actually still going through the sales process and you want to show them, different options based on that here. So we can do it for this type of event or this type of event. So that's where different versions come in. So I already told you, you can create as many events on Merri as you want. We do not limit your usage. Within each event, you can also create up to 10 versions. And the only reason we limit that is because from a technical perspective, it's data to load. So up to 10 versions. So let's call this one like plan it as a starting point, or create a brand new one from scratch. So let's use this as a starting point because we're just pretty much going to move the ceremony inside. And we will call this one like rain plan. And in the rain plan, what we'll do is move these chairs inside and rotate them. Move this over a bit, and then we're probably not going to have a 10 if it rains. And so now it's super easy for you to show your client, here's the rain plan, but here's plan A. And just toggle between them. Or here is 100 guests, here's 150 guests. Here's what it would look like if you upgrade to these chairs. Here's what it would look like if you use these provided chairs. So all of the different variations that you want to show to a client, you would create as different versions. Now that brings up the question of how do you share this with your clients? So there's a lot of ways in which you could do that. Now, right under this design tab, which is where I told you would probably spend about 90% of your time, you have a few options. The first is you can export to PDF. So let's just do that real quick. And I am going to export pretty much everything. And when I export to PDF, it's going to get sent to my inbox. Okay, so this isn't necessarily sending it to a client, it's getting sent to me. And then I can choose how I want to distribute this. Okay. Your second option is also within this share tab, is what we call a shareable link. So if you copy this link and you send it to your client, what they see is amazing fly-through video. Now I'm told that sometimes over Zoom this looks choppy. I promise it's not choppy in real life. It's actually like smooth as butter. But why this fly-through video is amazing. It feels like they're walking through the space. They literally feel like they're in their event. But what you can see is we stripped out all the buttons, right? They can't make any changes. They can pause the video, they can restart the video, but they cannot change anything that you did. So those are both what we call read-only options. Your next read-only option is what we call the summary tab or the client dashboard. Now, did you see when I was switching versions or doing some things, we said like hold while we take screenshots, right? Now, the reason we do that is because we are populating this amazing tab that you have to do unless you want to further customize it. So this is a great thing that you can send your clients because kind of off the shelf, doing absolutely no additional work. What you can see here is for plan A, you can see your 3D image, your top-down image, your blueprint image, what the tables will look like, and the inventory that you used. And then you can also see the rain plan. I had to do no additional work. This just automatically populated based on what I did. I share this page via this link with my client. They can see all of these screenshots. They can also access that amazing fly-through video through this button right here. So this dashboard is kind of like the best of both worlds, right? You get the fly-through and you get all these screenshots, which is amazing. Your last and final option is for every event that you create. So you're going to see a lot of events on my dashboard. You are able to invite collaborators. Okay, so everything that I just walked you through, exporting to PDF, sharing a dashboard, et cetera, that is read only. They can see the work that you did. But if you want to invite people and give them edit access, you just put their email address in here. You tell us who they are. Tonight, we are actually launching additional permission levels so that you can say, only give this person access to like guest management and seating chart, full editing. They get an email from us. They follow the link and are automatically connected to the event you created for them, and you guys can work on it collaboratively. So you can either invite people if you trust them and you want them to do the lion's share of the work, or if you kind of want to like maintain control and do most of the work on your own, that's where you should leverage the client dashboard or the export or that link. So plenty of options for you to share things depending on kind of how you operate your venue and what makes sense on a per client basis. So we talked about how you can get onboarded. We talked about all the tools for floor planning, different versions, talked about how you can share this with your clients. It's kind of like the perfect 30-minute overview. Lindsay, I'll pause there and I can get into more detail on anything you think makes sense.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions that came through. I know that you've already touched on these, so just to recap a little bit, I guess. First question is, can venues control how people can lay out their space? For example, like spatial restrictions or anything like that, that are predetermined by the venue?
Yeah. So there's actually two elements to this answer. So the first is on like a literal object by object basis, like how far apart do things need to be? Yes, we set that as a rule in your onboarding process. You customize what you want that to be for your venue because everybody has. The second thing is we launched a feature a few months ago called venue templates. So when I just went into that space, I said, I want to start from scratch, but you as the venue have the ability to, if you have a layout that you created, you can save it as a template and say, this is how we always want you to start for like 100-person wedding, or this is how we want you to start for a 200-person cocktail hour. And you can create as many templates as you want and either use that as a starting point or just use that as, the only thing that your client can do. And then you send them that dashboard and say, here's, how your event is going to be set up. So template or start from scratch. And then also those house rules that we implement.
Perfect, perfect. And then the other question was, can venues invite clients or third-party vendors to an event to collaborate?
Yes, so you can invite anyone you want. When they get invited through that little dialogue I just showed you, they automatically get access to whatever you invited them to. They don't have to pay to join Merri to access an event that you invited them to. The only time that a professional would have to pay is if they want to create their own events on Merri, outside of what you invited them to. And then a client just always only has access to the one event that you invited them to.
Okay, great. And I have a question centered around that. Let's say that the venue obviously has an account with Merri and they happen to be working with a planner who also has an account with Merri and they get invited. Is there like on the back end, are there any not restrictions, but does it make it difficult? Like are you constantly logging out to collaborate and logging back in? Does that make sense?
No, great question. So this is my events dashboard. Okay. These are all of the events that I'm currently working on. And this is also how I can create my own event. This is me and my dog. So my events, what I'm in right now